Hi, Scorpio. Welcome back to the Astrology 33 channel. This is your mid-December 2024 love reading. Thank you to those of you who like, viewed, shared, and subscribed to the channel. I appreciate all of that. For those of you new to the channel, as far as what we have in front of us, it's why I call it a bridge and gap spread. And the way it works is we'll look at the past, present, future energies between you and your main love interest. Once we get through all that, we'll pull some more cards as well for some additional insight, and that's how the bridge and the gap dynamic comes into play. As far as the decks being used, on the left side we have the Lover's Path Tarot, on the right side we have the Romantic Tarot. And also keep in mind it's a general reading, so I'm going to be referring to the cards on the left as the energy and the cards on the right as the other person's. If you feel I can see a way around in your situation, then definitely trust that. Alright, so with all that out of the way, we'll get started. Past energy on your side, we have the Ten of Coins. So this says to me that in the past you definitely saw the potential for this connection to grow and be a long-standing commitment between the two of you. For some of you, this could just be saying that maybe you initially started off as friends as well, but then you start to see the potential for something more. Right? Past energy on their side, we have the Six of Wands. So this is definitely an indicator that they saw a lot of potential within the connection as well. But what I do see with this artwork in particular is how we see some birds that are free, which to me the birds represent communication, and then we see they have one in the cage there. So I will say they might have felt really comfortable in your energy and in your presence, right? And knowing where you stood, but they, on the flip side, might have been a bit more comfortable being reserved about where they stood as far as their feelings went. All right, present energy on your side, we have the Five of Staves. So to me, this could represent you possibly even taking a bit of a playful approach to really try to get a feel for where they're at, because like I said, it seems like they might be a little bit tight-lipped when it comes to expressing how they really feel. So I feel like this is saying, because if we look at the facial expressions there, we see, looks like those two are smiling, and then this person looks a lot more serious, right? So it could just be one of those things where maybe he might try to take a playful approach and try to get out of them how they're feeling, but it might backfire for you in the moment. This card actually represents the first 10 degrees of Leo, which is actually where Mars is currently retrograde too. So that could be bringing that energy out too, where all that and the fact that we still technically have Mercury retrograde too. So those two things could definitely cross some wires, and even if you intend something in a good way, it might come out wrong. All right, present energy on their side, we have the Ace of Cups. So, funny enough, right, even if that is what takes place here, where maybe if you try to get something out of them, but maybe the approach doesn't work out quite like you hoped, it does look like ultimately they are actually open to the idea of growing a connection with you too. So, similar to how we see the opening there with the shutters, we see something similar here with the cup as well. So, yeah, it could just be one of those things where you might find out anyway through this approach that they actually are more open to the connection than you might have initially thought. Right, and future energy on your side, we have the Princess of Arrows, which is the equivalent of the Page of Swords. So yeah, to me this says that ultimately it looks like in the future you will actually be more expressive around how you're feeling toward the connection too. It looks like there could even be some nervousness around that. So we see the butterflies in your artwork there, and we think of the phrase butterflies in your stomach, and then just page energies in general. They tend to have these stances with the swords and a lot of decks, right, to show that they're not fully confident in what they're doing just yet. So, yeah, it could just be one of those things where even if you're a little bit nervous about doing so, it looks like you're going to be a bit more upfront about how you're feeling for this person. All right, future energy on their side, we have the Hermit. So again, you might find ultimately through that approach as well that they are just really more reserved in general. So to me, this would represent someone who would have those feelings and reciprocate those feelings, but getting them to express them in the same way that you might feel comfortable doing, that might be the main clash there. They just might be a bit more reserved when it comes to expressing their feelings, but I feel like you would be able to tell from the practical ways that they might show up that they really do value the connection. They just might not express it as openly as you'd like. All All right, bottom of the deck on your side, we have the Three of Coins. So this is Capricorn energy here, which really this in particular would represent like the middle 10 degrees of Capricorn. So you might be feeling this energy right in the beginning of January for a lot of you. But yeah, usually the Three of Coins or Three of Pentacles, depending on the deck, energy usually points to an energy of collaboration. But here we see this person's alone. If we look at their facial expression, they will call that happy Eva, right? So it could just be one of those things where, again, like I said, you might feel like you don't know where you stand with this person. You know, you might feel like you're putting in your share to work, but you're not quite sure where they are and how they're feeling. All right, and the bottom of the deck on their side, we have the King of Wands. So, yeah, I mean, if we look at the facial expression they have there, right, the body language, facing away from the cards on the side, yeah, we could see that maybe that is part of the issue, right? Maybe they just expect the attention to come their way, right? They don't necessarily expect to reciprocate. So that might have to be something that you'd have to see, you know, if that's something that you could deal with in the long term, or better yet, if this is just maybe a phase they're going through, and then once they finally do feel a certain level of comfort, if they would be more expressive, because this is a card that represents Leo energy, and usually Leo energy is very expressive, but at least at this time, it looks like they might not be showing that toward you. We'll see what the Oracle cards add to the mix. First, we'll see what we get from the Messages of Love Oracle card deck here. I did pre-shuffle this deck, but we're going to give it a few more shuffles, cut the deck, and pull a card that way. Okay. So we'll take this card, get this out of the way, and next we'll do the same thing with the Wisdom Oracle deck, which I also pre-shuffled, but again, we'll give it a few more shuffles and pull a single card here as well. All right, and we'll take this card, get this out of the way, and we'll take a look at the Messages of Love Oracle card first. All right, we have Lesson. Let's see if we can get that to focus better. There we go. It says, this person is in your life to teach you a spiritual lesson. So interesting there, right? Because like I said, it seems like ultimately what I'm seeing for the most part, it looks like they do have the feelings, but it just could be more of an issue of them expressing them, right? And for those of you, you know, who feel that way, maybe the lesson there is to see, well, is that something that you could actually live with, right, in a long-term connection, or would you need someone to be more expressive, right? So this could be one of those kinds of connections that shows you more of what you want and whether or not you could get it where you're at currently. And from the Wisdom Oracle, we have Time to Go. There's the artwork, and the number is 45. So at least that would imply that for a lot of you, might ultimately decide that maybe you wouldn't be able to stay in a connection like that long term, but we'll see what the actual message says. All right, the relationship message says it's over, or at the very least, the form this relationship has taken is no longer of service to you or the other person. This is a time of letting go, of knowing that the journey has come to its conclusion. That doesn't mean anything is lost. Although this card could speak to a breakup, drifting apart, or the end of a soul contract, it is more about release than destruction. Remember the saying, if you love something, let it go. If it comes back, it's yours. If not, it never was. Endings are always a sign of new beginnings. If you want something deeper, walk away. So yeah, definitely an interesting message there, right? Because like I said, it seems like the main thing with you was that, okay, you saw the potential on the one hand, but it just seems like you weren't really quite sure where you stood with this person, and it seems like, you know, you might find out that they are open to it, but then ultimately, like I said, even as you become more open and expressive, this person would just still seem a lot more reserved. And then, like I said, for some of you might decide that that's not something that you could deal with in the long term. And like it says, as far as the walk away part, right, maybe if it is something where this person just doesn't see your value at this time, then maybe that could potentially spark something there as well. But hope whatever resonated with you guys will wrap up there. Hope you guys have a good holiday season and New Year, and I'll see you all next month. All right, bye.